everybody, and welcome back to your weekly PlayStation podcast, Talking the PS, for episode number 17, where we round up all the PlayStation and gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, or up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. This week, you're joining myself, Chris, alongside the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. Welcome.
My knees hurt.
And below him, the chaotic neutral rebuilding his computer, probably going to go straight back to Richie. Rob, welcome.
My back hurts.
Okay, I'm not very well myself, but I'm going to get into all that. Don't forget, boys and girls, don't forget, click like, subscribe. You threw me for a loop there. And click that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the amazing content we do here at Helix Cloud Games, like our first looks, our live streams, and all of our wonderful other shows. But before we get into it all, Richie, why the hell do your knees hurt?
Because for the first time in 6 years, I actually ran 10k, and I probably shouldn't have done. The way I felt when I woke up this morning is like, I struggled to walk downstairs.
And we're at football.
Painkillers are good.
And we're at football tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah, but if I kind of have a rule, if you have to take painkillers to recover from your workout, then you've worked too hard.
Definitely, and you are not on my team for football tomorrow. And Rob, joining us this Sunday as we record this very episode, you decided to rebuild a PC. Is that why your back hurts?
No, I just kind of felt left out, so did a little white lie to say something hurt, just so I could build.
You're actually at the peak of your physical fitness.
Yeah, like I'm at peak processing power and peak physical power.
Right, that's
which I will use none of because I'll be on my PC for the next week just playing games.
Playing games with a new setup. We will get into that, actually, of course. Everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. We've got a great PlayStation show lined up for you all, medical issues aside. We're going to be talking about the new lineup of Witcher titles that have been announced. We're going to be talking about Cyberpunk, guaranteed to be getting a sequel on the back of a CD Projekt Red investor call. We've got new Crash Bandicoot being rumoured. We've got Horizon remakes, Dead Space remakes, and loads of PlayStation features and news to talk about. But before we get into all the thick of that, we do have a great channel announcement. Since, obviously, the unfortunate news of Google Stadia being shuttered early next year, and our channel centrically been focused on cloud gaming, Stadia was our fledgling podcast we launched on this very channel. We've decided to step things up a bit, and normally we would wait before making any announcements, but the way the news has dropped, we've kind of had to scramble, but we are delighted to announce that coming soon to the Helix Cloud Games family, we will be launching a new PlayStation. No, not PlayStation. Stadia.
PlayStation.
No.
This is the PlayStation.
This
podcast.
is the PlayStation. Not Luna. That's not out yet. We are launching a Xbox and xCloud Gaming, Xbox Cloud Gaming, whatever you want to call it, centric podcast called Richie.
Talking.
You did it. Well.
I just give you shit as well for getting it wrong. It's like, no, it's going to be called XPass.
Right, we'll restart that again. What's it called, Richie?
It's going to be called XPass. I didn't get it wrong this time.
You didn't, you're right. I will just leave all that in the show. Yes, the XPass podcast, we're going to be rounding up all of the green side of the coins news every week in a very similar format that you're familiar with, and I can't wait, looking forward to it. We've both acquired some Xboxes, Series S's, and we've got 2 years of Game Pass Ultimate. Our audience, our viewers and listeners out there, we reached out to you, we did a vote for our members, we spoke about it in our Discord server and many other places, and basically overwhelmingly any either ex-Stadia, current Stadia players, it seems to be just migrating there. It seems like the next logical step. In the absence of Luna being worldwide, GeForce Now's utility to games library conversation, Xbox seems like the next logical thing, and I can't wait. I'm thoroughly excited. I think we said on the Sounds of Stadia podcast this week, Richie, which is still live, we should point out, is still going, discussing all the fallout. I just can't wait to get started. I've never had an Xbox. This is my first Xbox I've ever owned. I'm excited to jump into franchises that I've never played before with our viewing listeners out there. Can't wait.
Yeah.
And you will be the host of that one. You're going to be taking the hosting reins.
Yes, I will be hosting that show.
Because
terrible, blame Rob.
We'll put it all on Rob's back because he's got a bad
At least
back.
I can get the name right.
That's true. That's true. We might have to discuss this, actually. We might have to discuss this. But that's coming soon. Keep it locked to our social feeds. We'll get a date. We have commissioned an intro, theme tunes and stuff are being worked on. So we would have normally kept it all secret until we went live, but we felt in the absence of a Stadia news podcast, we thought best remind our lovely viewers and listeners out there that we're not going anywhere. We're going to double down on some content and switch on some green lights for you all. So thank you very much for your support. Our Helix Heroes, of course, the wonderful members who helped us make that decision very, very easily. Over 50 of you support us. And if you want to join the channel, you can do by clicking join below. 99p, early access to content, shows, stickers, badges, exclusive packs. And we love you all very, very much. But back to it. Rob, you decided to take apart your PC, rebuild it. That's why we're recording the show a day later, because it took longer than anticipated. What have you invested in? What have you been spending your money on?
So my old PC, as you know, I do most of my gaming like via PC, either actually using the hardware or using it as like a channel for streaming through PlayStation or Xbox. And it was 5-year-old, so I decided I'll go like super kind of current, helps with work as well. So yeah, I kind of like went a bit all out. I've got like a new ultra-wide monitor. I've got a 12th generation Intel. I've got like a 3080 in there for the graphics card. I also have massive anxiety over something not being installed correctly. So every time I power it on, I get that little kind of scared moment where there's a little kind of scratch or like the disc powering up or something, and I'm like, I've fucked something up and it's going to like sound fire soon.
As soon as you hear the fans go, oh no, you're looking for smoke. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm just like, I'm still in that anxiety phase at the moment. But I did get Spider-Man as a free kind of gift from Scan, I think it was. Not affiliated or anything. But so they give me a free Spider-Man, which I'm going to check out after this recording. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, we've got some news about Spider-Man on PC, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on what it is. So in light of taking apart your PC, have you been playing anything this week?
Absolutely not. No.
The game of building a PC.
Just yeah, like the game of building a PC. If there was like a PC building simulator, that's probably the closest thing I've been playing. There will be definitely.
There actually is.
Yeah, so that's the closest thing I've been to gaming.
That's where Henry Cavill learnt all his mad skills from as well. Richie, what have you been checking out this past week in the world of video games?
I did, because I bought an Xbox, I did spend a pretty much evening just kind of not really playing anything, but you know when you get the new tech, so you're going through all the menus and getting it all set up and customized, like adding a load of games to my games I want to playlists. And then I jumped into Octopath for a little bit, just to get out a few titles that I knew I've played before to test out xCloud. So I think I played a bit of Dead 5 as well. As I was trying to get make sure everything's working in terms of like cloud gaming, all that sort of stuff. So I haven't jumped into anything Xbox yet in any sort of meaningful way. It was all just kind of tech demo stuff to get my hands on the platform. And then I went back to Trails of Cold Steel because I'm want to try and push towards the end of that game now. Excellent.
Yeah, it sounds like you did what I did when I booted up mine, which was basically scroll through everything on Game Pass and think like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. The Elder Scrolls as you go through it. I've been checking out because of the Xbox and other things. I'm still chipping away on Assassin's Creed Rogue, which I will mention. I've saved a clip to show you guys, but go on YouTube and search for Assassin's Creed Rogue Captain Cook accent. Because this guy, Captain James Cook, not necessarily now if you don't want to, but Captain James Cook, of course, we know him. He's from Teesside, born and bred, from Martin, I think it is, not too far from where we live. In Assassin's Creed, he has some weird hybrid Scottish-Jamaican accent. I don't know where they've hired this voice actor from. But as soon as he showed up, I was like, oh, I wonder if this is... Because they introduced historical figures through Assassin's Creed, and I thought, who is this guy? And then he starts talking. I'm like, oh, it mustn't be the Captain Cook that I'm familiar with, like the world-famous cartographer and everything. No, it was the Captain Cook, but I don't know where this version of him grew up with because it's laughable. He kind of dips into deep Scottish and then into some kind of middling Jamaican English, and it has me chuckling every time there's a cutscene with him in. Wasn't
he from Merton, like originally?
Yes.
Yeah. So not Scotland.
Yes. No.
Not Jamaica.
Yes. That is correct.
Anything past London is Scotland to most of the world. So
yeah, so that made me chuckle. I've also been playing Disney Dreamlight Valley with my wife. Anyone out there who's a Disney fan, definitely check that out now. It's kind of like Animal Crossing with like a Disney skin over it. Collect elements, build, craft things, cook things, appease the Disney characters in the world to try and save it from this like darkness that's set in. And it's really fun actually. Nice. It's one of them just chill games. I finished the Last of Us Left Behind DLC with the wife as well. We played through that. really enjoyed it. Interesting enough, her take from it was she would have liked to see Left Behind incorporated into the main story. Because obviously it does flashbacks to when Ellie was younger, and she said actually dropping those scenes into the Left Behind DLC, for those who haven't played it, spoilers, I guess, for like it's 9-year-old game.
I think that's a fair game.
It does like a bit of a flashback sequence where when Joel's not very well, it shows you Ellie finding meds for him, and then sandwiched with flashbacks of her being a younger child and meeting Riley. And it kind of afterwards she mentioned it, and I was thinking, actually, yeah, it would actually fit really well in, because it's literally doing the flashbacks in the DLC, so it could just sandwich in. I was wondering how it would play through as a first time experience, having not known it was DLC, and it would probably just blend perfectly.
Yeah, with the remake as well, it seems like a nice opportunity with it being incorporated into the remake, so you just get it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, incorporated better into the story, because it does feel Left Behind, when I played that DLC, it feels like they're padding out a bit of the story that they kind of glossed over a bit during the main playthrough.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, well, yeah, you could go back and you could just literally just put that in there.
Yeah. So it would have been maybe in the remake part 1, just to have like a toggle option to include DLC naturally or exclude it.
I would have just worked it in. We just incorporating this in. It's part of the story. It's like it's canon. Just
it is a really good point that though, when you have kind of, obviously we consume DLC kind of main game DLC, and then like go back. But for someone like your wife who's 100% interested in the narrative as opposed to anything else, it is like an interesting way to kind of introduce new people into the franchise. Yeah, and it's not something I hear talked about a lot, really. Kind of.
Especially like story driven, so like DLC where it's just like a new map or something. It's not quite the same because it's just you experience it when you stumble across it. But when it's new characters or characters that have been mentioned in the story, it did play really well. And we've seen from the HBO Last of Us trailer we mentioned last week that the flashbacks to Riley is part of the story. A character's in the trailer, so that will be part of the show. And obviously the show's not going to have DLC. It's not like, he's 8 episodes of a season and then there's like a spin-off episode comes 3 months later. That's not what happens. So it's interesting. Like, we never got DLC with the likes of God of War. That was just standalone. We've had it with Horizon, but again, I think open world stuff, it's a little bit different because it almost is going to be just like a tacked on new area that's unlocked. But when it's story and chapter and characters, it's very curious with it all. So enjoy that, and looking forward to the TV show even more now, because I can now say to the wife, should we watch The Last of Us? And it's like, yes, it looks really good. It's from the Game of Thrones team and all that kind of stuff. Right. That's all we've got time for in terms of talking about what we've been playing, because we do have a busy show lined up for everyone, as I mentioned. Rob, do us the honours and introduce us to the
properly prepared PlayStation Cruising Points, aka the news.
The news. Brought to you by Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Just importantly, notice how I didn't start saying the super sexy line.
I did,
because I'm a professional, okay? I know what show we're doing.
You get that. Yeah, Richie was joking about the Xbox One and how difficult it is to find words that start with X.
I've got one. I did come up with one while I was in the gym. It was like, I was sat there thinking about the show while I was in the gym.
I'm so glad you didn't say the shower or something there, or the toilet or something like that. The gym's good.
Write it down.
Write it down, scribble it. Get your little pencil out. Lick the why do people lick the tip of the pencil? Why was that a thing? Before they take a note.
Was the tip of a thing?
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely a thing when they get the little pencil out and they lick the tip. But is it? Oh, it might be to wet it on a pen, maybe. I guess feather quills and ink dips aside. Yeah. Slate boards. Anyone use a slate board when you go to those old school museums and they have like actual boards with slate on them to write in? Like, no. Okay. Someone I will have. Beamish. Look it up. Next up, first up, I guess, on our news stock this week, brought to you by our wonderful Helix Heroes, the fantastic folks, as I said, who sponsored us. You're all terrific. We all thank you so much. And thank you again for supporting a PlayStation-centric podcast in what has normally been a Stadia-focused channel. First story, big story. CD Projekt Red essentially lifted the lid on their entire future of business and trade and game creation, with some huge announcements this week. Starting off with the announcement that we will be getting officially the next Witcher follow-up. We kind of all knew they were going to be working on another Witcher game, but they've officially said it's in production, it's being worked on, and it's one of a trilogy. So first off, we know about a new Witcher Trilogy. We don't really know any insides. I'm guessing it's I'd imagine it's going to focus on Geralt still, but you never know what they want to do.
I don't think it will. I'm pretty sure they've retired Geralt.
You think? But he's kind of the poster boy.
Yeah, but if you played the Witcher 3, I know there's multiple endings, but all of them basically end with Geralt basically being retired.
Nah, I think he'll be back.
I don't think they're brave enough to do that in the current state.
I'm sure they announced it before, like that they're done with Geralt. I don't think. But
I mean, as someone who's not finished The Witcher 3, I just see that as like he is the character who people know as The Witcher. I think it's risky to ditch him from a franchise that's just so well known. It just seems like an odd. I don't know. Again,
it's the same thing, I suppose, with like Uncharted, where when they do eventually make a new Uncharted, they kind of have to move on from Nathan Drake.
They did Lost Legacy.
Yeah, but that was more of like a side thing rather than main series.
That's true.
But yeah. So
new Witcher Trilogy. That wasn't the only thing though. We've also got Witcher spin-offs announced. Projects Sirius and Canis Majoris, which I believe is Star Constellations. I think that's what they're named after. So we've got 2 Witcher spin-off projects in the works. I don't really. Is it? I mean, one thing it's gonna take years to come out. Let's face it. This is gonna be like a 10-year, 12-year cycle.
They've only just finished working Cyberpunk, so.
If that, they haven't even got the story DLC for that. But in terms of it, we know the Witcher series on Netflix has got. I think did Netflix commit to like a 7-season arc or a 5-season arc? From what we know,
5.
I think they've committed to that, which means like every other year we're essentially going to get some more Witcher TV show, which is going to boost it. But by the time they get the next Witcher game out, I'm guessing it's going to kind of dovetail with the Witcher TV series ending in the way like timelines and video games work. But either way, they've got 2 spin-off projects, as I said, announced as well, which are going to be... One of them's going to be a multiplayer experience, and one of them's going to be a single-player experience, which is going to be story-driven and focused. So we've got Witcher Trilogy, 3 new games, 1 single-player story-driven one, and 1 multiplayer-focused one. And I guess, Richie, I'll throw it over to you. You finished The Witcher 3. I believe you're, 1 trophy away from the platinum? You got to play through it all over again?
I think it might be 2 or 3 trophies, but there's one specific one that I missed. It was a missable. I missed one thing out on it, and that's why I kind of gave up. So I didn't grind out the last few because of that.
So
because it was like I realised there's going to have to be another playthrough.
So what would you expect from a new Witcher trilogy and these spin-offs? I guess. What's your first take on it?
With the spin-offs, I'm not sure. I suppose you could, with the spin-offs, you could focus on other Witcher schools in different parts of the world that they haven't focused on. But with the main trilogy, assuming that they're moving on from Geralt, I think refocusing around Ciri might be, like, going forward, might be the interesting take. Because while she has been a huge part of the story, you haven't... and you did play a bit of that in Witcher 3, but I think there's more to go there. I mean, with the Witcher 3 has quite a few different endings, so they would have to like make one specific ending canon, in my opinion, which I don't really want to spoil, especially because you haven't finished it.
Nope.
Have you played The Witcher, Rob?
Yeah. I've had it.
Yeah. So there's a certain ending, a potential ending where I'm thinking of where like Ciri becomes a Witcher. That for me could be like if you make that the canon ending. And then you could take her forward, so her like setting out in the world as the replacement to Geralt, as the known Witcher throughout the lands.
What about the spin-offs then? What does a multiplayer Witcher look like, Rob? What do you think?
I'm less enthused about multiplayer Witcher, I have to say. Witcher for me has definitely been like the pinnacle of what a single player game can be. So I'm, again, not too enthused about the multiplayer element. But thinking more broadly, this is kind of the first... Well, the next series of games is going to be the first time there's been like a massive eyeball on the Witcher series. I know like kind of 1 and 2 had its following in its own regards, but the scale of that compared to what number 3 became is...
Yeah.
It's night and day, right?
2 was kind of the cult classic that set 3 up to be the success that it was.
Yeah, so I'm curious how they're going to change things or how that's going to influence the kind of development and kind of style of the game, really. That's what I'm most interested in. But it could be good, it could be bad. It's just kind of a wait and see, really, I think.
Yeah, swords and multiplayer are always a bit of an enigma. Like, when I think of multiplayer online, it's always guns. It's just always, for the most part, has to be guns, in my head anyway. But I think you're right. The Witcher kind of took it to new elevated events with 3, where I didn't really know anything about 1 or 2 at all. And then same with 3. I only really started hearing about 3 when it got all of the Game of the Year editions, and it was just suddenly everywhere, and the Game of the Year and then the DLC bundled in with it and such.
Yeah, like Rob said, I think Witcher 3 is kind of the epitome of what a Western RPG can look like. It does have that open world. You do have freedom to explore stuff, but it's not just random, the Ubisoft style of throwing random stuff on the map. The side quests always seem to be something that Geralt would actually be doing, rather than just miscellaneous tasks to pad out the game. And that's why I always like. It's why I've always used The Witcher 3 as like a benchmark when we're talking about RPGs. It's like every time I did a side quest, it felt like it added something to the story that I was playing. It always seemed to feed back into the main narrative.
Yeah, and there's some times where you couldn't tell.
It's just like, this is what Geralt's job is. So yes, it would make sense he would take time out to deal with this monster for the small village, because that's how he gets paid. Like, it's his job.
Yeah.
So it kind of all worked.
I felt like you were contributing to something much larger as well when you were doing kind of side missions. Because I'd get down certain kind of paths on side quests, and I'd still be thinking I was playing through some kind of main quest element of it, and it's really hard to distinguish if when you get into those things. And I just hope to keep that element to it.
Yeah.
I hope they don't go Ubisoft style.
With the multiplayer stuff, I can't envision how that might work, because I don't think the gameplay in The Witcher 3 is actually this one with stronger points. It's good, but it does feel a bit dated now, I think. And I don't know how well that would translate to a multiplayer experience. However, they are switching over to Unreal, I think. I think it's Unreal.
Yeah, they're ditching the Red. The Cyberpunk's the last thing in the Red engine.
So I'm guessing for the next trilogy, there's going to be a bit more. They're going to revamp the combat system and things again. So it remains to be seen. But I think a slightly more diluted version of probably what you'd get in the mainline trilogy is what you get in the multiplayer.
Yeah, of course.
Similar,
we're
like
presuming.
Ghost of Tsushima. I think Ghost of Tsushima is probably a good example.
Legends is terrific.
Yeah, it still kind of feels like the same combat, but it is a bit more streamlined, a bit more simplified.
Yeah. I'll attest to that. When I try to play The Witcher, I think I must have finished Assassin's Creed Odyssey and some other RPG elements around that time. So going into it, it did feel a bit more kind of wooden, with lots of overly complex layers for all the spell casts and everything like that. And I ended up not really using the spell stuff or the ingredients, because the menus were just such classic RPG depth that as maybe a more casual RPG guy, I was just like... So I didn't end up any crafting things, really, didn't spell things. And
crafting is important in Witcher.
Yeah, it was that kind of like maybe a bit too overwhelmed by what was going on. So we'll see. But new Witcher Trilogy, obviously long ways off yet. The first installment's probably due out. I mean, if I had to put a date on, if you think Cyberpunk came out a year ago, I'd probably say another 3 years in the oven until we see that. But it's going to be huge, whatever it is, when it comes out, because it's The Witcher after all. We, of course, still have The Witcher PS5 and Series X versions due out this year still. They still committed to it coming out this year. Don't have long left, CD Projekt Red, to get this kind of out, like usually with a little bit of lead up to marketing. However, I suspect, is that Witcher Netflix spin-off not due this December? Did that not get announced soon?
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know what the spin-off even includes. It's not Henry Cavill, but I'm sure that's due to drop this December, which I would suspect the game's going to drop at the same time.
Yeah, this is one where I don't think they need to overly market this game, because it's the next gen version of a beloved classic game. I think it's just a case of you could drop this anytime. I think this is not going to be one of them where you need that initial huge spike. You can just drop it and people will eventually just gravitate towards it.
Oh yeah, I'm just thinking in terms of they haven't put a date on it yet, and we're in the middle of October nearly. And
bear in mind, I think you are getting a free upgrade if you already own the PS4 version.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily a money spinner for them. I mean, they will bring in some money, probably bring in a lot of money, but as a Witcher fan, I'm not buying it again because I've already got the PS4 version, so I will get my free upgrade.
And I want to play it fully for the first time, so I'm waiting for this date specifically. So wrapping up all that, then that's a lot of Witcher stuff. Don't know what it's going to look like. I'm sure we'll hear more about it. But CD Projekt Red obviously going back to the well of something that they know. It's almost like tried and tested. If whatever was going to happen with Cyberpunk, they always had The Witcher to return to, which I think is always a safe bet. Following on that from that, though, we did get a full commitment to the Cyberpunk franchise. We've seen it have a huge resurgence over the last kind of fortnight, 3 weeks, due to the Cyberpunk Edgerunners on Netflix, due to the Edgerunners patch that came out, and just essentially just a bunch of goodwill. And I think a lot of this is derived from the ongoing love for the Witcher series. It's still kind of hanging in there. Defiantly against all the shit the board and the chair people and stuff made bad decisions on ruining Cyberpunk's launch. But essentially, over a year and a half later, in line with the new story mode, they're going to commit. So it's considered to be coming probably after The Witcher, right? So you're talking 7-8 years before we get a glimpse of this title. And we know the first Cyberpunk game was already 8 years in development. I think it was announced in 2013, 2012. So you're talking almost closer to 2077 than the original announcement of the first game, when we'll actually probably see this one. But they are committing to a sequel. It's currently been codenamed Cyberpunk Orion, and it's going to be built to prove the full power and potential of the Cyberpunk universe. The studio feels it can give the franchise installment what it deserves with Orion, especially considering the improved state of 2077. So very, very far off, but no doubt anticipated in the near future. And then the final piece of news we've got from the CD Projekt Red update is something called Project Hadar, or Hadar, I don't know how you guys would say it. And this is going to be a mysterious new title set to bring about a launch of a new IP for CD Projekt Red, making the company's first foray into a new franchise that has no prior source material. So, as I said, Witcher's tried and trusted. Cyberpunk seems to be finally paying off for them. It's probably a smart business move to have an IP that you actually fully own, because I think they pay royalties and rights to the Witcher author, right? And then Cyberpunk was from a board game, so probably not as many royalties, but I think as a business it's good to have a diverse portfolio, especially one that you wholeheartedly own. Any thoughts, you two, on what a new IP, Project Hadar, could mean? Or what you'd want to see?
You're on a blank completely.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this for the entire Witcher discussions. Like, I don't really know. Like, you could go it'd have to be something that stands aside from The Witcher and Cyberpunk as another tentpole. So it'd have to be different. Like, initially I thought sci-fi, but is that bit maybe too close to Cyberpunk in some ways? Unless you really go kind of out there sci-fi. I thought of like a horror game, but the horror setting. But there's lots of them at the moment. It feels like we're about to hit we saw, was it not Game Awards, Gamescom, and there was just loads of horror games horror games getting announced. So I really don't know. You could go you got the fantasy
some real world
of The
historical.
Could go
real world historical maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they've got essentially a 20 million plus sales of a shooter in a Cyberpunk futuristic world. Then they've got the third person fantasy genre that's, I think, which is like 60 plus million copies, I think they confirmed in this conference as well. So you've got that kind of the best of both first person, third person, multiple really, really popular genres, and it's like, I think they're going to want something that has more of a games as a service feel to it as well, because I think making these single player games is great, but it is costly, it is timely, and you don't really have much money flowing in between. So I could see them doing something probably more shooter based and multiplayer, but yeah, anyone's guess is as good as ours at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you can always consider that if they do kind of like a games as a service type of offering, it could head off a lot of problems they had with the Cyberpunk launch, where it was, pure speculation, but I imagine there was a lot of harsh conversations about the release of that game, saying,
"Yeah,
we're burning cash at this rate every month this game isn't out."
Yeah,
like, I don't care what condition it's in. The company's not going to exist in 6 months if it's not out. So maybe it's the hedge against stuff like that again.
Yeah, it's constant income, isn't it?
They could be brave, and they could go for more like a sci-fi shooter, kind of Destiny-esque, with Bungie being now getting bought by Sony. They could position themselves to be a Destiny 2 replacement in the third party space.
Well, yeah, we've mentioned it a few times on the show,
but I think they're capable of it. well, we don't know what they're going to look like in terms of games as a service. But
yeah, in the light of kind of Battlefield epically failing and Activision possibly going Xbox exclusive in another 7-8 years, whenever that deal or whatever it ends up looking like. But if this game's probably that long in development anyway, you are probably planning for the future. And in a world where Call of Duty could be Xbox exclusive and Battlefield might not have sorted itself out still, then there's a massive void left that a company as big as CD Projekt Red now, with the background of Cyberpunk and Witcher, could come in and kind of steal a bit of limelight and plant the flag in the ground and say, like, we're going to be the go-to ones for that. I've seen Overwatch disappoint a lot of people this past weekend as well. So, yeah, the market's always moving, and it's weird because you've kind of got to make these chess piece moves almost half a decade or longer in advance of presuming what the market will want, which is an impossible task, but some companies manage it. Look at Apex Legends with EA. They just shadow dropped it, and boom, it's huge.
if I was CG Project Red, I would they've set themselves up to be like this RPG company. So I would, whatever I'm doing, I would make sure focusing on like RPG stuff, like these almost in some ways could be the replacement for BioWare, where BioWare at one point was the darling of all RPG players, and they've kind of fallen off a cliff. And CG Project Red is rising to almost take the crown.
See, I think they'd want to diverse the portfolio more. I think if you've got a team of devs working on one big massive RPG, they need like an outlet for something different. And I think if their teams are rotating, it would be a really good in-house thing to be able to say, you get to work on Project Hadar, which is actually like a crazy zany shooter online with zero gravity physics and lasers and all this kind of shit.
Destiny, as I picture like a Destiny-esque type game, is an RPG. So it's not like out there, so you're staying in your wheelhouse, but while also having enough diversity between franchises. It needs to feel, whatever it is, needs to feel distinct from The Witcher and from Cyberpunk.
Agreed. A cute, fluffy animal game.
Yeah, while also I think being like a game that does feel like this is the game that from CG Project Red, and not CG Project Red trying to be someone else.
They could combine the best of both worlds, which we haven't seen since the Sega Genesis days, and do a Terminator v Predator crossover or Terminator Michael Jackson crossover, and just have Geralt versus V from Cyberpunk, and just mash the two of them together. Like, you overuse all the assets, give it some crazy name, Witcher versus Cyberpunk, and then
that was such a golden age for collaboration.
It was,
time period, wasn't it?
You never see it anymore.
Oh, wow.
Moving on, though, that's all your CD Projekt Red Witcher news. We did get a little tease this week, which got me very excited. Crash Bandicoot's long-rumoured Wumpa League seemingly being teased for the Game Awards this month. So the press were sent some secret packages this last week in the lead-up to Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, being released over on Steam. So it's just kind of a wider launch release. But in there, some eagle-eyed people have noticed the pizza boxes, essentially. Some of the YouTubers and influencers were sent out just a fake pizza box representing Aku Aku Steam, because it's coming out on Steam, in Pizza Shack. And on the side of the box there is a little image which kind of just shows off, it looks like just some special promotional work for a fictional pizza shop. However, there's a date mentioned, or what looks like the dollar price, but it's $12.08, which if you flip it around to American dates, $12.08 is the 8th of December, which is the same date for the Game Awards. And Toys for Bob teased a few months ago that they're working on a new project soon to be announced. And of course, Toys for Bob were the guys who did Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. So it just seems like a perfect pairing where there's been some leaks and rumours coming out that there is another Crash Bandicoot game in the works. Toys for Bob were initially pulled off to help with Blizzard Diablo, I think it was. It was either Diablo or Call of Duty support, but they weren't closed down, unlike Vicarious Visions, who did the Crash Trilogy remake. So they still exist. They've obviously done whatever they will need to help with the support project, and they've gone back to working on a full game release. Gentlemen, do you think at Game Awards we're going to see another Crash Bandicoot announcement? And what would you like to see from them? Speculation central here this week.
I'd like to know what the actual game is going to be, because I've been looking for hints and stuff, and I can't really see. I'm guessing it's like a sports-themed kind of party type of title, maybe.
Yeah, Wumpa League is the rumoured one to be out, which the only one we've not seen from my childhood is Crash Bash, which is the kind of Mario Party-esque one. And with it being Wumpa League, I'm thinking, is it games as a
There has
service?
to be
Is it
some
more?
like
Yeah,
element to like competitive element to it, I think, doesn't it? But I love all these kind of not conspiracy, but like kind of like pulling at these investigative threads of, oh, this leads to this, and then this happens this date. It's like some kind of weird gaming thriller.
it's like Easter egg
series.
hunts.
Yeah.
Maybe something like Mario Strikers. Like it could be anything because like Crash at one point I think especially in the PS2 era was kind of doing the Mario thing where it's like, oh, you got the main series games which are platformers, and then he's going to appear and doing also kart racing and party games and stuff. And it feels like that's where they're trying to get back to with them. So it could be a Crash 5, but it could be completely anything really.
Yeah, it seems like jumping between the mainline game and another. So we got the Crash Trilogy remake, and then we got the Spyro remake, and then we had Crash Team Racing, and then we had Crash 4. So we've had like 3 Crash Bandicoot games in the last several years, which has been absolute delight for me as a huge Crash Bandicoot fan. I would love to see Crash Bash, but I don't know if a Mario Party game holds up as much in today's world without like couch co-op just isn't as big of a thing. So making it into a league with some kind of points tally, what makes that exciting online? And I'm thinking like, yeah, just like playing mini games and getting points wouldn't really do it for a lot of people. So I think incorporating it into some kind of overall sports league with the Crash Team racing element. So there's like online racing with go-karts, and then there's the mini games, and maybe like Fall Guys-esque kind of drop in and survive a world somehow. But yeah, the Wumpa League rumor keeps circulating. It's like, right, they clearly want to make a games as a service thing out of this, but how could they do it that's still fun and true to kind of Crash Bandicoot's zany platforming?
Here's the interesting thing is because Activision Blizzard's about to get bought by Microsoft, it's hitting a few roadblocks at the moment, but it's probably going to go through eventually.
Yeah.
Which means if they do like a Crash Bash style game, that is almost certainly going to be day and date to Game Pass. Which then the whole thing of like, do I really want to drop 60, 70 pounds on a party game that's best played couch co-op? That argument's gone. It's just there. So as Xbox owners, we could just jump into this game easy, and I think these games would work okay with you as long as you got comms on the headset. So I could see it being a Crash Bash style game.
Yeah.
Although I don't think it's going to be just Crash Bash, because if they were going to do Crash Bash, they just bring out Crash Bash.
Yeah, remake.
So it's going to be something different,
like a hybrid,
but somewhere in that kind of like I don't know, in that Venn diagram, in that part of the Venn diagram for Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, there's also rumours that it's kind of might be like a Smash Brothers clone as well, because we've obviously got Multiversus that just came out. There's what's the other one? There's
Is Crash strong enough on his own for that though?
I don't think so, but that's when if it's part of a league game that has other sports included, I think that would be just one of the avenues it would have. But how would that look? I really don't really know. Personally, I would just have another Crash Bandicoot game.
Microsoft could potentially do that as a entire thing with like Crash and Spyro and who else have they got? They've got like Banjo-Kazooie in there, Master Chief.
Yeah, of course. Throw him in there.
Yeah, so I think Microsoft could do it. I don't think Crash on his own could.
Interesting. Well, we won't have to wait too much longer to find out. Of course, Game Awards coming this December. We'll probably watch along here on the channel as we usually do, where we stay up ridiculously late just to watch advertisements powered by Jeff Keighley and The Rock. One thing we won't have to wait too much longer for, though, everyone, is Need for Speed Unbound. On last week's show, we revealed the name. Unbound was leaked. Well, now we have an official announcement from EA. It showed off all of the things we mentioned, the anime style, the different kind of words popping out of the screen. Very, very colourful and chaotic. It's releasing on December the 2nd across next gen only in PC. And yeah, we have a trailer which essentially shows off pretty much what we expected. Does, after watching this trailer, move the needle anymore for you two on a Need for Speed front? Or are we still both... Oh, I think we're all in the same camp where it's like...
Yeah, not really for me. Like, it seems a bit kind of try-hardy, I think. I can't really think of another word to kind of describe it. Like, there's a weird art style going on, which masks a lot of the actual gameplay in that trailer. I noticed. Like, I still can't actually see what
you're doing
different about this game. Yeah, but then like, I'm not entirely opposed to like the anime art style from it, but I don't know. It's just the combination just doesn't work for me. And
Yeah, I definitely want to see it more in action, how it plays, because the cutscenes make it seem like it's cool, but I feel like I'm watching the show on Netflix rather than seeing a video game.
Yeah. I kind of like the anime aesthetic they're doing. I think it does start... I think it's going to help to set Need for Speed apart from some of the other racing games, especially with Codemasters now owned by EA. They have a lot of racing games.
Mm-hmm.
I think this change of aesthetic kind of like gives it a bit more character so it doesn't get lost in the mix as much.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't move the needle in terms of my desire to play this game because I'm not a big racing game fan. But I don't know. Again, like you, I'd need to see more actual gameplay rather. There's definitely in this like montage. There's definitely clips that looks like it's in engine, but it's like a second here, a second there.
Yeah,
I want to see a bit of an extended. Like, just show me a race.
Yeah, something. I'm sure we'll get a gameplay reveal soon with it.
Is this going to? I mean, is this going to be just a track-based game? Is it going to be more open world, like something like Better Paradise?
It's open world because they've said there's a new map they've revealed as well to go along with it. But you can't get out your car. I think that will be the next big thing for Need for Speed is like embrace telling a story and let you get out your vehicle because I think it's always ironic that you literally drive from A to B. You do a drift race, you drive from A to B, you do your car up at the garage, and you see
make it more story focused,
you see, and they've tried to do that in recent years, and they've got characters and stuff involved, but you never really get to feel like you're anything bar the vehicle, which I think playing as a human being, driving the vehicle is the fun element of the game, but to actually like buy into the story and actually give a shit, you need to actually play as the protagonist. And I think some games have suffered for that in the past when, you can't. Like a silent protagonist, it doesn't do anything for you. We mentioned it about Watch Dogs Legion. It had too many characters, so you didn't have one to focus the story on, and the game lost a lot of its kind of focus because of that.
The strength of a silent protagonist is that this is kind of like a blank slate that you can put your own personality. They work really well in like a lot of RPGs because you can make this character whatever you want, especially like say something like a Skyrim, where there's a lot of different stuff in that game you could do, a lot of different, like you build your character one time, completely different to another time. But for a game like this, I think like, a fully voiced, fully acted protagonist would make a bit more sense.
Yeah. But we'll see how it does. It's out obviously very, very soon. And you'll probably be able to pick up on EA Play with an early access deluxe edition that comes with extra anime features and colours. But moving on, if you want remasters, PlayStation seems to have your back at the moment. A Horizon Zero Dawn remaster is in the works for PS5 as claimed. So hot off the heels of The Last of Us Part 1. Over at VGC, we've got a rumour that 2017's Guerrilla Games title, Horizon Zero Dawn, will be getting a new version probably coming next year. It's claimed the new version will have accessibility features, graphic modes, and quality of life improvements to the gameplay itself. Richie, we're both big Horizon Zero Dawn fans. Really enjoyed the first one. Really enjoyed Forbidden West earlier this year. It seems like a long time ago since I played that game. It was actually only earlier this spring. Is it time for Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster? Or is this way too soon? Or is this just Sony just ticking a box of having all of its best games on the PS5 natively?
I think what they're doing here is they're doing the same thing they did with Last of Us. Well, Last of Us decided to do a remake in time for the show. There's a Horizon show announced, so they're doing let's get a PS5 version. An actual standalone remaster doesn't really make that much sense to me. Just upgrade the game you already have. Give a full PS5 update, because it feels like that's all they're doing, really. So, but if they're calling it a remaster, that implies they're going to sell this as a separate title, rather than just updating what they have. So it's like, so if like people like me and you have already have the game, it's almost like, oh, do you want to play the better version of it? Now you have to pay us another 70 quid. Mm-hmm. It's like it doesn't seem great. Like when you could just go, you know what? They might do this, but Sony seem to be reluctant to do this sort of thing, where they could take the PS4 version, have a fully fledged, basically the remaster, just update it to a PS5 version. Because the PS4 version plays really well still. It still looks really good. It's not a problem. It doesn't look as dated as The Last of Us did.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. Yeah, well, Horizon was a PS4 title from the beginning, whereas The Last of Us was PS3, so it had that generational jump to make anyway. I don't think it personally needs it. However, from a business lens, I can completely understand why Sony would like all of their big titles to have like on the shelf with that PS5 box with all its bells and whistles ready to go. So if you love the old game and you want to jump back in with a new trophy list and play through it again, this is the best way to do it. If you've never played this before, you don't want to start on the sequel. He's the best version of the original game to jump into. And Rob, I know you always look at things through a business lens yourself. Can we really blame Sony for wanting to have all their marquee titles marked up at £70 a pop? To like, it's a business. We've got to remember this. At the end of the day, it's a business to make money. And if doing a cheeky little polish here and putting it back on the shelf at a full £70 whack, it's a good decision, right? Because people will buy it.
I guess it like in the short term, yeah, like they'll get money in. But my worry, like, for the past kind of 5 years in the industry, has been like there's like a seed of laziness being planted. Amongst a lot of like, kind of the big titles, and if you just basically bring out all your games again for the next generation, that kind of stifles investment into titles, I think. So, do you get to a point where kind of it gets like the Grand Theft Auto titles, like number 5, just continues to get being put on like a new platform every single time a platform comes out? It just seems a bit kind of, especially Horizon Zero Dawn, what is it, 5-year-old maybe?
2017 it came out originally.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, so like I don't see like the value you get from doing a remaster at this time on that. And again, I think it just breeds a bit of laziness. If you know you can bring out your hard hitters for every new kind of new platform to shore up a lack of titles on that said platform, it just kind of, I think it breeds more issues than it solves in the long term.
Yeah. See, I like the concept of remasters and remakes because they take all the titles and bring them forward to a new generation of players. This is the same generation of players, though. Like,
yeah, and I feel to me most
like if you've never, but if you've never had a PS4,
yeah, but you can just literally go to a shop, buy Horizon Zero Dawn, and play it on your PS5, and it works, and it looks awesome.
Yeah, but it's 6-year-old. I want the new shiny thing. Like, I think this is the market they're going for. Yeah. Like, if you've literally just switched from Xbox or you've never had one and you get a PS5 for Christmas this year,
I mean,
you're going to make money. The 2022 version.
A lot of money. They're going to make a lot of money doing this, but it feels like you could just patch the game to get to where you want to be rather than having to bring out a separate standalone title. You could even still put it in the PS5 box.
You could, but then...
You can have the best of it.
To keep playing devil's advocate, I really just think they crunch the numbers and go, people will buy this.
Yeah,
it's
people are going to buy it. People are going to make. They're going to make a lot of money off it.
New artwork, new box, bundle it with Forbidden West,
like it
in some kind of collection. Yeah. You've got it.
I always find the best value you get from a remaster is like controls and UI as opposed to necessarily graphics as well. Yeah. Which I feel like Horizon Zero Dawn's like very much in this format of kind of control function, right? There's no kind of fundamental flaws in it, if you want.
Yeah. Well, they've said it comes with, like, obviously the accessibility features, which The Last of Us did terrifically, and quality of life improvements aside, I think, making the game more accessible to others in a remaster is terrific. It's just one of them boxes you can tick that just it allows the game to be checked out by more people. Would I want to play one? I think it's way too soon for me personally. It was just experienced Forbidden West. Even though I love them, it doesn't have that draw that The Last of Us had for me. But I think I'm with you, Rob, in terms of it stifles creativity a little bit, and we've seen it happen in the movie industry and the TV industry where like nostalgia is a powerful thing, but it does slow down us getting like new stories, new characters, and we've seen it with like Star Wars and MCU a little bit now and everything as well, and remakes of like horror movies and everything. But it's an interesting one because you kind of still getting best of both. Like we'll get an inevitable Horizon 3 in several years' time, but during that process, if they need to make a bit of money by doing releases or remasters, it happens, I guess. But
yeah,
either way, one we'll probably no doubt hear about soon. I'm sure. I'm waiting for this Sony showcase, guys. Still, we're into October now, and I'm thinking, I'm expecting. I think Richie, you said it. God of War Ragnarok state of play, like a kind of half an hour, 20-minute dedicated. Yeah. Just this is just Ragnarok. followed by
on the
a
eve of
showcase
the launch,
announcement.
probably a couple of weeks before, to
Yeah.
that last marketing push for Ragnarok. And then once Ragnarok's out, then you showcase what's going to come next year.
Yeah. Well,
because I think at the moment, it's like you don't want to do the showcase now because you don't want to get in Ragnarok's way.
yeah. And in the past, of course, they had their PlayStation Experience, like presentation, showcase, and event in the United States every December, which was shuttered before COVID and to save on money and stuff. But after Ragnarok's out, there's nothing. Like we've got, I shouldn't say nothing. What comes out in January? Well, I can't remember the name. Square Enix exclusive. Girl runs around. Forspoken, yes. Forspoken's like the final exclusive. Aside, I guess we know Final Fantasy next year as well. You know what I mean? Like from the first party studios, we don't know what Sucker Punch are doing. We don't know what Insomniac Spider-Man 2 is doing. We don't know what Naughty Dog are up to other than chipping away on this Last of Us Factions game that's been in the works for like 3-4 years now. I'm excited to see what it holds, but
yeah, that's why I'm thinking you do like a state of play for Ragnarok, like probably the end of this month. Ragnarok comes out the 9th of November, and then after that you do your state of play on the run up to Game Awards in December to kind of set out the table for what you can expect for next year.
yeah.
And I kind of like the idea of like if I was running a game company like Sony or Microsoft and Nintendo, having a big showcase at the end of the year to kind of go, okay, guys, this is what you can expect from next year. Here's all the big titles we're planning to release. Even the stuff that may have already been announced, you just put it there. So like, yeah, look forward to the upcoming next year. We'll have our state of plays and each game as we on the run up to it. It's kind of a nice way to do it.
Definitely. And we know the industry's notoriously quite quiet January, February, March anyway. Even though we're getting loads of games, the actual industry as a whole is usually a little bit more subdued.
Oddly enough, I think Horizon Zero Dawn changed that because February used to be just a graveyard, just be dead for games, and Horizon Zero Dawn came out, done a lot of numbers, and everyone went, oh, we can release games in February now.
And Breath of the Wild.
Literally
the same week, so we said I did see loads of jokes going around about Horizon saying when it gets a remake, there's going to be like an Elden Ring remake at the same time or another Zelda remake just to shit all over Horizon's sunny day. Because Breath of the Wild scuppered it somewhat on initial launch in all the Game of the Year awards, and then when Forbidden West came out, Elden Ring came out like the following week or the same week, and then that's kind of done the same thing. It's took all the wind out of its sails. So whatever remake or remaster or the third entry in the series, there's just going to be something there that just shadows over it to annoy it. Funnily enough, I think a lot of the Game of the Year conversation this year probably is going to be Elden Ring and God of War, and I think Horizon's just going to miss out again. It's going to be that awkward third place where the top two are going to battle it out, and everyone's just going to forget about this phenomenal game because it's just not the top two. And it's going to be interesting to see this year.
I think Horizon, its chances of winning Game of the Year was already gone after the way Elden Ring landed.
Yeah.
It's now what can compete against Elden Ring.
I think Ragnarok's got it in the bag. Just for the recency effect as well, just because it's so close to the Game Awards.
I think Elden Ring might get it,
I think it'll get... Because remember, the last God of War was God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2 battled it out, and they kind of took turns winning awards, so like one for sound design, one for mocap, one for art design, one for director, and they kind of back forth, but ultimately God of War got Game of the Year, and I think recency and story as well, I think, because of the characters in God of War. But well, we haven't played Ragnarok yet. This is just purely going on the success of the old one, so we'll see. Speaking of remakes and remasters, we've got another one follow-up on this week, and that is we had a trailer finally drop for the Dead Space remakes gameplay. We've seen in all its creepy horror glory AAA standards shown off. However, there seems to be a bit of a bugbear come with this one, and that is the price. So we've just said about Sony launching remastered at remakes at £70, full price $70, whatever it accounts to in your respective countries. EA's Dead Space remake has been raising eyebrows with an also similar £70 and $70 price tag. So this, of course, comes out in January. What do we think on this one? In light of things like Sonic Frontiers is coming out this month, £50. Callisto Protocol in December, which is again spiritual successor to Dead Space, £55. Hogwarts Legacy next year, £60. Gotham Knights and Marvel's Midnight Suns coming out later this year, £65. Why is a Dead Space remake of an old-ass game £70 a year?
It's not on Steam. It's £50 on Steam.
Which I guess makes it even worse, right?
Yep.
That's why I'm buying it. I'm buying it on Steam. That's like...
I think
But
PC
it's
games
weird.
have typically been cheaper than console games, but the offset is you have to spend a lot of money for the hardware in comparison. So I don't know. I think if this was £70 across the board, I think people would be like, okay. But then when you list the other games, like especially Callisto Protocol, that's the big one. I think it's going to be compared against. Gotham Knights, Midnight Suns, and Sonic Frontiers are kind of a completely different story. But Callisto, the narrative is basically it's Dead Space is going to go head to head with Callisto Protocol because one's made by EA and is actually Dead Space, and one's made by the games who made Dead Space, the original Dead Space, anyway. And it's so it's like there's no way these are not comparable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the main comparison is like the effort levels it takes to like produce those two games as well. You have Callisto Protocol, which shares many similar themes, but is its own kind of narrative universe and kind of
they've built it from scratch.
Yeah, and all that work has to go into to do those things, and then you have these kind of like other guys coming along saying, "Oh well, we had this old game which we've again no kind of love lost to the individual devs who work on it because I'm sure they work hard, but as a kind of institution, yeah, fantastic. But as an institution, you must say kind of like there's no way you put like the equivalent effort into a remake that you did an entirely original.
You've got source material, right, to go off.
Yeah, right. Like all that kind of initial development and universe building is done, and it's. I can't see how they can justify charging the same value for it.
I think the Callisto Protocol devs have played the blinder here actually, because they'll know that they're going up against Dead Space in terms of people's minds, and a lot of people it's one or the other. So by making themselves cheaper, it makes that more enticing to go for Callisto Protocol rather than Dead Space.
Yeah, definitely.
And it comes out first, which will always help as well.
Yeah, that will help. So it's like, but it's a case of if you're on the fence, I can only afford to buy one of these games.
Mm-hmm.
Do I wait for Dead Space or do Callisto Protocol? Well, Callisto Protocol's the cheaper one. Mm-hmm. I'd lean that way.
Because I think you probably already played Dead Space as well.
Well,
yeah.
That's
if you're buying a remake, you probably have played the original, right?
But then you've got that whole argument of Callisto Protocol's also an unknown quantity. It could come out and be crap. It could get 5-star reviews, 4-star reviews, and then Dead Space, as you said, Rob, is a known quantity. So you're paying for the quality that you know story's going to be great. You know it's EA, so the graphics going to be great. And then I guess this is the whole thing with art as a medium full stop, is it's all subjective. Like I said the other week, I played Last of Us Remake, £70 for it, full price. I thought it was worth every penny. Someone who isn't that much of a fan or has played it before, who doesn't, says, oh, it's a rip-off, it's £70. And yeah, there's absolutely no rhyme or reason why Gotham Knights is £65, but Hogwarts Legacy is £5 cheaper, when some would argue Harry Potter World is far better off than Gotham Knights would be in terms of like public awareness. But then, is the price point being cheaper going to get more people in the door? To Richie's point about saying like the cheaper price makes it more welcoming to the masses. And it is just this total, I think it's just a throw of the dice. Whereas obviously PlayStation, Nintendo, are quite happy to keep their exclusive at a premium to really just show off like, look, this is the price you pay for quality. Like Nintendo have done it with those little gold stickers on the front of their boxes for decades now. And there is something to be said about it. Apple do it with their products every single year. Rob, you'll have it in your business as well, where you got two products that are pretty much absolutely identical in all but name, and yet one's more expensive. And that's marketing and branding. And I guess, Callisto Protocol coming in cheaper does it both pros and cons, but it's all in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
I think with
like,
Callisto Protocol,
annoyingly, you're right. Even though I'm annoyed by the price, like I can't deny the fact that you are right.
And will I be paying £70 for Dead Space Remake? Nope.
I mean, even if it was £40, I wouldn't be paying for it because it's not a game I'm looking forward to play.
What about £50 for Callisto Protocol then?
I mean, same. It's a game that I will appreciate from a distance.
Because you're too scared.
A safe distance. Hid behind your duvet.
I like to enjoy. I don't like to be uncomfortable when I'm playing games, and these games are designed to make you uncomfortable.
They certainly are. Tell you about things that are slightly uncomfortable. There is a Far Cry 6 Game of the Year edition that's been not announced by Ubisoft, but it's available to pre-order. Up on some digital storefronts at the moment. Far Cry 6 Game of the Year Edition. Listings are now live on Xbox and PlayStation stores. The game is £100 to purchase. Just talking about value and price here right now. This game came out over a year ago now, almost to the day actually. I think their anniversary must be in and around October, November. It notes that there is something called Lost Between Worlds is coming soon. So there's some kind of Game of the Year DLC. Of course, this does come with Far Cry 3's Blood Dragon Classic Edition. Great game. All 3 season passes, which quite frankly I thought were rubbish in this year's Far Cry. As a big Far Cry fan, I thought they were terrible. But yeah, not only... I guess the oddest thing is £100 to start. A Game of the Year edition, when we should also point out, this didn't get Game of the Year from any big outlets. It's literally Game of the Year from 2 small websites. Not IGN, not Kotaku, not Eurogamer, nothing like that. And to include DLC that's not even been announced yet, it seems a bit of an odd one, right? You're asking for £100 of people's money. Yeah, where do you two sit on? We're talking about this money. This show is obviously very financially charged. £100 for a Game of the Year edition? That's not really a Game of the Year edition, and you also don't know what you're getting in it.
There's a lot of smoke and mirrors, isn't there?
Far Cry 6, when it came out, it was kind of received. Yeah, it's fine. It's just more Far Cry.
More Far Cry.
It's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I really enjoyed it.
It wasn't a game that like people going, oh my god, you need to play this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It feels very steep. But
I'm curious what the DLC is.
You could potentially just get this in Ubisoft Plus, to be honest.
That too.
That might be part of the strategy, actually. Let's start pricing things at a high level that pushes more people towards Ubisoft Plus.
I mean, that subscription model's through and through, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to make stuff so expensive that you look at it and go, if I can just get it on a monthly thing for £10 a month or more or less, whatever it is, then yeah, it's less money out of my bank every month, but I still get the product I want. We just mentioned about the Series X and S, Richie, on 0% finance with all access.
Game Pass in general is like, but there again, when I think about Game Pass, it's like, I think net year on year, I'll save money by having Game Pass compared to if I was buying the games that come to Game Pass that I would like to own. Yeah. So I think that's the way you have to look at it. It's the way I look at Ubisoft Plus as well. It's like, if there's only one Ubisoft game coming in a year that I want, and even then I'm probably getting Ubisoft Plus because it'll probably take me about a month to play it. So it's to a net benefit. It's a more savvy financial decision.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we won't have to wait too much longer to find out. After all, it is the Game of the Year award-winning Far Cry 6. So
this is such ultimate bullshittery of like a package.
Metacritic of about 75.
Yeah, again, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I wouldn't ever want to pay £100 for the package that they're presenting in front of us on storefronts. It's weird that they haven't announced it yet. It's out there on storefronts to pre-order, but they haven't officially said in any capacity what actually the Game of the Year edition is or what the DLC includes.
I suspect the reason they haven't announced it is so idiots like us don't start slamming it for the price points.
Maybe they're holding out for their anniversary.
Just quietly put it out there. It makes less waves, so you might get a few sales before the negativity lands.
Yeah, certainly. Moving on, back to Elden Ring, funnily enough. From Software, PlayStation, and Tencent, of all people, seem to be investing a little bit heavier in the From Software world. Sony have increased their stake in the From Software shareholders. We mentioned it earlier on, but Sony now owns around 14%, with some other shares shared between Chinese publisher Tencent. Again, we kind of can see this creeping up, but it's an interesting one that Sony aren't going all out to just acquire From Software, and I think Tencent's probably holding them off on that, having shared multi-conglomerate companies kind of having vested interest in one business. It's hard to take a majority shareholder of this. Tencent, of course, and Sony also have shares in Epic. Japan, China have been very closely linked geographically as well. Bit of an odd one, but they're still ticking away at it, buying more and more shares, which in turn, off the back of this, has led to PlayStation Studios, which is their television and movie arm, deciding that these increased shares and stakes in Elden Ring maker FromSoft have also opened up to film and TV opportunities. So, Richie, you mentioned earlier on a Horizon show on the way. We've discussed the Last of Us show. We know there is a Twisted Metal show that's actually been finished production now with Anthony Mackie. Don't know what the hell that's going to look like. There's the Uncharted movies with Tom Holland. So I think we're in a renaissance of movie game tie-ins, but the other way.
Mario.
It's got Mario trailer dropped this past week. Sonic's doing really well.
Nintendo have bought a film studio.
Have they?
Yeah, they've actually bought one.
Interesting. I don't know what this would look like, but I guess there's space for horror, like a Bloodbourne TV series I could totally see on Netflix, or a Elden Ring TV series.
Dark
Like
Souls,
it's just at that
Demon
point when
Souls,
I don't know what you'd exactly
Sekiro?
have. Personally, I'd rather it was anime, to be honest, after how good Castlevania was. But
yeah, oh god, like a Sekiro anime could be amazing.
yeah,
Especially with the boss battles and stuff, it just lends itself like it's like an overpowered like action anime. Like it'd be ridiculous but awesome.
Yeah, give me over exaggerate like blood spatter and speed and climbing up and everything like that.
The
But
huge monstrosity that this guy with a little katana's taken down.
absolutely, exactly that. And then bringing things around to Elden Ring, obviously running on PC as well. Very popular over on there on the Steam links. Rob, you mentioned right at the very beginning of the show you got a free Spider-Man code. One of our final stories from the week relates to Spider-Man, and that's because the Spider-Man remastered version on PC, which is the one you're going to be checking out with your new fancy rig, has an option to link your PSN account. So this is the first time a PC PlayStation exclusive counterpart has the option to tie in your PSN account. Trophy support isn't included as of yet. However, I think this just foreshadows that PlayStation. We knew they've been in on PC for some time, but we've always kind of said there's always that disconnect where you're playing a PlayStation game, but there's no association to the kind of the parent existence of the console. Having your PSN tied to it, I think, is a huge move. And I think if they get trophy support to work, it almost just becomes another avenue to bring people in that PlayStation ecosystem fully without them even realizing they're doing it.
Massively, yeah. It's just breaking down that silo, which kind of PC gaming has been kind of stuck in since its inception, I guess. And the Xbox doing it, Sony's now doing it. It's just kind of time to allow you to play seamlessly in kind of whatever platform you want, really. I said the kind of initial offering of PlayStation Plus doesn't really do it on PC, but it's a small step in the right direction, and small steps make big jumps, right?
I hope this leads to like a unified like storefront as well for the PSN. So like with Microsoft, if I bought a game on my Xbox, I could play that game on my PC.
And your save file will be there.
And my save file will be there. I'm not sure Sony would like that. This feels not a Sony move, but this might be the steps in that direction. Again, I feel like Sony getting pulled in a certain direction by the industry at the moment because of what Microsoft are doing.
Yeah,
potentially unwillingly as
emergence
well.
of cloud gaming. I think it's more of the case of, well, we have to start moving this direction, otherwise people start looking at us as this company that's just kind of left behind. And, well, we still have these awesome titles to offer, but in terms of how people interact with games going forward, a little bit archaic.
I mean, that's perfectly demonstrated by you two, right? Because you two have never been kind of Xbox people in the past, but you've seen kind of what like their XPass service is offering, and you're like, I wouldn't have kind of predicted that a year or 18 months ago from either you two, really.
Well, Game Pass, when that was announced, that did turn my head a bit. It's like, the main reason I've said before about why, I think it's the same for Chris, why we've always went Sony over Xbox is just the first party offerings. But now Microsoft are getting them, and then there's Game Pass, and it's like, okay, you have my attention. You have my money now, Microsoft. Actually, not even much as my attention.
Yeah, you literally have my money.
You have my podcast.
Yeah, it is that kind of just that ecosystem lowest point to entry. And I think you're right there, Rob, saying like Sony are getting dragged into it, kicking and screaming whether they want to. But having a unified storefront where if you play Spider-Man, your brand new PC, you got that free code through some promotion. So now you play Spider-Man, and then inevitably, Miles Morales is also out on PC later this year. I'll check that out. Really enjoy that. Insomniac Spider-Man 2 announced PS5 exclusive only. Then your head's turned towards, what do I get for PS5? If Sony went the Game Pass route, so you're telling me I could get a PS5, pick up PlayStation Plus for 12 months free, and Spider-Man 2 is included for, free for the first year, $9.99, whatever, $12.99, whatever it looks like per month. It is that barrier to entry which has got me and Richie in on Game Pass, where it's like, so I'm going to get Starfield, instead of paying 70 quid, I get it for free. The next Gears of War game, I get it for free. The next Halo game, I get it for free. The next Forza. But just part of that subscription model, and I can cancel it whenever I want. But me and Richie now have 2 years and a console, and we can use it on PC. So then if you wanted to play Spider-Man 2 on your PS5 with your PlayStation Plus subscription, great. But with your top-end PC, if you've got your PSN tied, that means you can carry on from your PS5 console on your PC if you wanted to crank up those settings a bit more. And it's that, rather than looking elsewhere to play it, have it unified in one ecosystem. And that's just where you stay. That's why people are in the Apple ecosystem. They have been for over 10 years now, because every time they do an upgrade on their phone, it's like, well, I like the layout, I like the icons, everything transfers over. It's just the path of least resistance is the path to victory in this, and price point's another big thing.
Here's the thing as well, if you get PS Plus fully integrated into the PC ecosystem, you got all the things like the PlayStation Classics, some absolutely amazing games that are slowly making their way to PC now. But then you're getting PC gamers looking at that PS Plus as a subscription going, you know what? I want in on that. You might not get your Spider-Mans, your God of War, Ragnaroks day and date. You might have to still buy them. That seems to be the route Sony's gone. But you get Horizon Zero Dawn. You get the Uncharted collection. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good value to be had in PlayStation Plus, especially if you don't own a PlayStation. You don't have the games already. And so when you get the monthly games and you get the cloud gaming, if you're like fully integrating PS Plus into PC, could make Sony absolute tons of money that would have just been left on the table otherwise.
That's it, isn't it? And we know there is a storefront that's been rumored. I think it was one of the other PC parts. Again, move some of the PC and people will dig through the coding and find out all the answers about what's that. So between a storefront and PSN being linked in this game, I do think there's a launcher coming probably start of next year. The fact that Sony also have big investment in Epic, who launched their own storefront a few years ago now, and they've seen great returns, obviously a lot of investment, but great returns on that too, to make themselves a big player. I think Sony kind of know that they need to get ahead of the curve, because Microsoft have been doing it for donkey's years now. There's a lot of people out there, and I think, that PC world that kind of had a little bit of a lull in terms of just a quiet period, I think it's now on the up and up as consumers become more tech savvy and consoles have become more expensive. It's like, well, if I'm spending £500 on a console, why don't I just invest in a gaming PC?
Well,
and cloud
helps people working from home as well.
Yeah.
We need a setup office anyway.
Yeah, so. And if Sony is smart, what they'll do is they'll basically take the PS Plus client that they already have, update it to be the full storefront, the full PlayStation experience, but also get all that stuff on Steam, get it on Epic Games, get it on Good Old Games and stuff. So wherever you want to interact with your game library, you're interacting with it, but Sony's still getting a cut.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. Final story of the week. God of War Ragnarok. We mentioned it earlier throughout the show. No doubt going to be a Game of the Year contender. Cannot wait for it myself. Releases on the 9th of November. And no longer does it have to worry about Skull and Bones getting in its way, because we know that got pushed back as well. So it's got a straight clear landing path.
Of that. The prospect of that.
It's got a straight landing path. It's gone gold. Sony Santa Monica tweeted out this week saying, "We're thrilled to announce God of War Ragnarok has gone gold." On behalf of SMS, which actually took me a second to figure out that it was Sony Santa Monica Studio. At first I thought they're sending a text message to each other. And then all of our partners, thank you for the fans supporting us over the course of development. We're almost ready to launch and can't wait for you to play it on November the 9th. Of course, gone gold doesn't really mean anything in today's world, because it goes gold, it means the disc's essentially ready to print, but you know they're going to work on it for a day one patch update for the next month, while they kind of just do that last minute bit of polish. Great to see. It means it's real. It means it's no longer going to get a delay, you would think now. It's gone gold, so it's definitely launching. And then they did thank a couple of other teams. Interestingly enough, there was Blue Point Games helped out with some of this, and a couple of other studios as well. Some smaller, probably quality assurance teams and such. Great to see. Cannot wait. It's literally a month to the day of recording. Ragnarok comes out. Can't wait. Rob, is your PS5 coming in time for Ragnarok?
Potentially, we'll have to see.
That's when I say that out loud, it just sounds like it's like, is the PS5 going to arrive before the apocalypse? With Ragnarok, it's like, oh, you're going to miss out on your PS5 because of Ragnarok.
I'm also preparing for that old Ragnarok situation. You know?
It's been in our public consciousness for years now, with Norse mythology and Ragnarok. But that is all we have time for on this week's show. We're going to go away, of course, and prep and prepare for our new Xbox podcast, the XPass podcast, coming soon from Helix Cloud Games. But don't worry, we'll be back every single week with Talking the PS. We have discussed it before, but we're most likely going to bump this show up to a Monday. So once Sounds of Stadia fades away, everyone, it seems daft to just leave that kind of Monday start of the week time slot. So we'll move this show up to then. So if you're listening to this now and thinking, I do listen every Tuesday, great news. You get it a day early on the Monday, not going forward immediately, but just to, I think, give everyone a bit of a heads up notice. Of course, if you are here on the Tuesday, then it's already been here a day. So where have you been? Where have you been? Talking to PS will return next week, rounding up all of your PlayStation and gaming news right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, or up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. Do not forget to check out the rest of our channel. Loads of other great shows. We also have CloudQuest that goes up every single Friday, discussing a cloud gaming topic that's just off the beaten path of video game conversation. Richie, what do we talk about on this week's show, if you can remember?
We're discussing the
Discuss.
show that comes out on Friday. We're discussing where Stadia players are moving to.
Oh, where do you think?
Now,
Where do you think
Stadia
we're going to? Or if we give that game away already on this show?
We may have hinted at it throughout the course of the show. Yeah, we might have
Subtle
done
nods,
that.
and announcements. Yes. CloudQuest available now. If you are a Helix Hero, one of the wonderful members who support us that extra little bit further, you can have that right now. It's available on our members page over on YouTube. Check it out. Loads of good stuff to be had alongside other perks and exclusive bonus content. That's been it for Talking the PS. Episode 17. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
And remember, everyone, play whatever makes you the happiest. Have a great week. Game on, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.